Trump supporters are absolutely coping over the economy right now. They are huffing copium like mad. President Trump went out yesterday on Liberation Day, as he called it, and spewed a bunch of lies. He said that other countries are tariffing us a bazillion percent and said, therefore, we need to tariff them super hard. And a bunch of right wingers now have to cope. Some of them are saying they don't agree with it, and I give them credit for that. For example, the YouTuber Actual Justice Warrior Sean Fitzgerald posted that he was not looking forward to the stock market's reaction to this. And indeed, the stock market's reaction to it is not good. But a bunch of other right-wing accounts, they are not able to string together any sort of coherent response. They're just trying their best to remain positive, trying their best to pretend that President Trump knows what he's doing and that things will go well. For example, I think it was End Wokeness that tweeted, "We're going to see if people are willing to put up with some short-term pain for long-term gains." Like, really? This is the hope? So you have to straight up admit that you're harming people in the short term. You are putting your middle finger up to the interests of Americans in the short term, but saying, well, look, in the long term, it will pay off. In the long term. That is such obvious cope. And you know what? It's kind of reminiscent, oddly enough, of what was said during Biden's presidency by some outlets that supported him. Some Democratic-aligned outlets said, well, this inflation is transitory. They said, well, things are going to be better. And what was funny, actually, was that things ended up getting better. Inflation ended up going down in 2024. It started off rather high in 2021, 2022. It was still high 2023. But by 2024, it was lower. It was under 3% at the time of the election. So the inflation was transitory. They were correct about that. And they were mocked still for coping. They were like, this is cope. This is just, they're trying to tell Americans that, they shouldn't expect more from their government. They're trying to defend the Biden administration. They're just a bunch of paid shills. And now these paid shill Trump accounts, like Jack Posobiec and Wokeness, they're like, oh, this is just short-term pain for long-term gains. These people don't know what they're talking about. They don't have any historical examples to cite of obscenely high tariffs that ended up leading to long-term gains, like, hey, we're going to harm you right now, and then it's actually going to help you later on. The idea is, oh, well, we'll become less dependent on foreign goods, yet they still have not laid out how that's going to happen. And in fact, again, right-wing YouTubers have expressed skepticism of the way this is going to go. The more honest ones, the ones who are not completely in a Trump cult. So you get the people in the Trump cult who are like, oh yeah, no, this is going to work actually. We're going to get long-term gains. You've got the right-wingers who, unfortunately, they defend Trump too much, obviously, but they're not in the Trump cult, so they actually will admit that this is not good. And then you've got some people who aren't even talking about it. For example, Matt Walsh has not even talked about these tariffs because he's just so obsessed with social issues and not economic issues. He wants you to be mad about a so-called boy going into the women's restroom or something like that, and abortion, and so-called genital mutilation. And he's like, yeah, no, don't focus on the economy. So we've got basically three camps there: that don't talk about it, that talk about it and do cope, or that condemn it among the right. We also had Mike Pence, of course, condemning it, saying this is a giant tax increase on working Americans. Mike Pence is 100% correct about that. He came out with the laser eyes and shot down his former boss for that ridiculous proposal. So I give Pence credit for that. But yeah, mainstream MAGA, the people who you see getting the most engagement on X, those are the ones who are defending it, who are saying, no, look, he has a long-term plan. And then I bet if he ends up reversing the tariffs or going back on it, they'll still say, oh, this is 4D chess, this is just genius Trump. Did you ever read The Art of the Deal? The Art of the Deal tells you about all of this stuff. It's really helpful, guys. Yeah, not a good look at all. Ben Shapiro, of course, was condemning this, and I think he'll continue to condemn it. He does not like tariffs. He's more of a free market guy, and tariffs are, in fact, interfering with the free market. Trump has tried to use all these pretexts like, oh, other countries actually tariff us 700 bajillion %. So therefore we get to tariff them. And it's like, no, they're not doing that, first of all. And second of all, that doesn't mean that it's then wise to tariff them back. Also, he didn't put any tariffs on Russia, just a fun fact. Some people are pointing that out. Kind of interesting. Putin's buddy over there who yells at Zelensky is not going to be tariffing Russia. And yeah, also, there's also cope as it relates to foreign policy from MAGA, that they're like, oh, this is actually, he's putting the rest of the world in their place. He's showing them who's boss again. Back when Biden was president, it wasn't clear that Biden was boss. In fact, he was an old senile idiot who couldn't do anything and made us look bad. But Trump is in the driver's seat now, and he's telling them who's the sheriff. And it's like, well, no, he's just making us look bad. He's just making other countries mad at us, and that's not a good thing. Believe it or not, other countries exist on the same world as us. It's better to have more of the world like us than to have more of the world dislike us. And so we should pursue sound economic policy that does not harm other countries. How about that? Did you ever think of that? Sorry to be a little smug here, but sometimes you've got a little bit of earned smugness, when you make such a great point. But yeah, this is one of those things where it's just like, I am in awe. We didn't really see anything like this during his first term where they said, yeah, he actually is making things worse. But it's only in the short term. It's only in the short term, guys. I swear. Long term, this is going to be really helpful. We're going to have long-term gains, and you're going to be really grateful of it in the end. We don't have any historical precedent to support that idea. No, obviously not. Don't ask us for any proof or any evidence. We're MAGA. We don't care about proof and evidence. We're not dealing with empirical reality. Just trust us. Just trust us. It's going to help you in the long term. You're going to be able to buy a big new house. You're going to have cheap American-made goods. It'll be beautiful. We won't be dependent on China or something like that. The cat's out of the bag. Sorry, guys. Sorry with regard to free trade in China. The cat is out of the bag, and the cat is going to be very hard to put back in the bag. And Trump's not going to be the one to do it. Trump is just going to bury us deeper into a hole. I don't mean to make it seem like our economic situation is apocalyptic right now. It's not. But it's not good. It's not good, and there's increasing evidence that Trump is trying to meddle with things in order to bring about a privatization scheme where a bunch of oligarchs and corporations will take over the economy rather than the government. But that might be some of the long-term gain that they're talking about, long-term so-called gain. And unfortunately for them, they will end up realizing that it is not gain whatsoever to tank the stock market, to tank the economy, to piss off everyone across the world, including people who are traditionally our allies, to piss off countries that don't like each other and cause them to ally with each other against the United States. That is very, very ill-advised. So foreign policy, economic policy, that's tariffs encapsulate them both. And so when you screw up on tariffs, when you screw up on trade, you screw up on both economic and foreign policy. That is what Trump is doing, and we didn't really see anything quite like this during his first term. He was bad on both issues during his first term. This bad, though, this brazenly, unapologetically bad, I don't know about that. I don't think so. I think he's stepped up his game in terms of badness, and MAGA has stepped up their game in terms of coping ability. Boy, are they high on copium right now. It is something to see. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, or subscribe to this channel. This has been the Morris the Merrier. Come here for your political news. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to speaking to you in my next video.